Buckle up for a wrap-up. That rhymes. Hello, heathens. Welcome back to the channel. I am doing a wrap-up today. I'm doing this a little bit early. This is going to be my September wrap-up because, I'm very excited about October and October reading. So I want to do my October TBR. I want to start reading my October books. I want to do all of my spooky recommend videos. I'm going to be doing quite a lot of videos. I'm actually aiming to do quite a few more per week, depending on how things go. But I thought I would do the wrap up, and this also includes my new releases. Should you read them? You're a grown-ass adult, and make up your own mind. Because I did read a lot of new releases this month. I will say I am getting all the books on my TBR, and I mainly blame the fact that there were a few new releases that came out that I really wanted to read, specifically two where I kind of dropped everything and started reading them. Also, we're not quite at the end of September yet. So anyway, I'm going to stop waffling. So the two books, yes. So two books that I was highly anticipating came out towards the end of September, and I just really had to drop everything to read them. So the first one is We Love You, Bunny by Mona Awad, which is essentially the sequel to Bunny by Mona Awad. And then this gorgeous beast of a book, and this is Alchemised by Sun Lin. Yes, first of all, let's just appreciate the beauty. This is the Waterstone Special Edition. Look at those sprayed edges. Now, I've gotten a bit jaded when it comes to sprayed edges, but those are nice. And then we're just going to play book. Look at that. You've got the Ouroboros, and then you've got this really cool reverse dust jacket. So this came out. Now, eagle-eyed among you may spot the fact that I am 309 pages into this. And bloody Royal Mail delivered it like a day late, so I thought I was going to get it on, actually no, it was 2 days late. I thought I was going to get it on publication date, and then I had to sit and wait for it, but I got it. So I was very excited. So I didn't realize this was over 1,000 pages long. Now I've read, a long book doesn't scare me unless it's boring. I think one of the longest I've read is probably War and Peace, but then also The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. That was over 1,000 pages as well. So, but what I would say is, first of all, initial reaction, 300 pages in, I love it. I freaking love this, but I'm going to give a proper, but just initial thoughts. I've never read Manacled, which is the fanfic this is based on. This has been traditionally published. It's a story all on its own. However, what I'm reading here, I'm absolutely in love with. I will say this is dark. This is pitch black, right? So you read your trigger warnings, please. If you have trigger warning, please look at the trigger warnings before going into this. But it is so gorgeously dark and gothic and bleak and gut-wrenching and heart-wrenching. And I think Sun Lin has done an incredible job of actually building a world outside of, Harry Potter. Building her own world, building her own magic system, her own backstory for these characters. And I think therefore it is 1,000 pages long, but it's well worth it. I feel like this is like an epic fantasy book to me. And as such, I'm taking my time when I'm reading it as well. Some books like romance novels or thrillers, you can actually, it doesn't matter if they're 500 pages, you can read them like in a day. They read quickly, where I feel like this, in the best possible way, does not read quickly. This is like reading Donna Tartt. You kind of have to invest a bit of time and energy and thought into the reading process, at least in my opinion. But I'm in love so far, but I'll talk more about that once I'm done. Oh God. You wait. If nothing else, you could bash someone over the head with that. And then We Love You, Bunny came out. Now, okay. So I am 326 pages, so I've only got that much left to go. And I will say, when I first started reading this, I was like, oh my God, I love it. So this is, you have to have read Bunny. First of all, but this is kind of a follow-on. So the idea here is, it's very clever. It's very meta of Mona Awad. So the story we got in Bunny was about Samantha, who joins this writing course at this prestigious university, and she encounters this group of girls in her fiction writing class called the Bunnies, and then all hell breaks loose. And the premise here is that Samantha, FMC from the previous book, wrote Bunny. So she wrote Bunny, and she wrote of her account at the school with the Bunnies. And this book is told from the perspective of the Bunnies, having taken Samantha hostage and telling their side of the story. But they obviously reference Bunny the book as if it actually is a fictionalized book that Samantha wrote. You with me? So that's why I'm like, it's very clever. It's like Mona Awad making a comment and critique of her own book in a way. It's very clever. Love that. Loved the first bit of this book where we got the different perspectives from all the different bunnies, from the 4 different bunnies. Then we got into the perspective of, and close your ears if you want to know nothing about Bunny. We get the perspective from, what's his name? Arias, the bunny man. This is where it's starting to go downhill for me. I don't like it. I mean, the way it's written, I get why it's written like that, but it's incredibly annoying. I'm finding that writing. I think this is an acquired taste anyway. I think people are going to be really annoyed by the writing style generally. But when it was the bunnies, I liked it. This bit, this middle bit of the book, I'm struggling. And that's why I'm still not finished with it. I want to get to the end of it. But I thought, when I first started reading this, I was like, 5-star, love it. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to sit with this for a while. So those 2 books were the main reason why I didn't get to some of my ones on my TBR. Now, one that was on my TBR, and again, I am 119 pages into this, so I'm this isn't a very long book, so I'm just under halfway through, is The Midnight Rooms by Danye Coles. Now, I was really apprehensive going into this. I was like, oh, I've read some really mixed reviews at this. People have said they didn't like it. I don't know if I'm going to like it. It was billed as Crimson Peak meets Pan's Labyrinth, which 2 of my favorite things in the world. So I was apprehensive. I'm happy to say, halfway through the book, I'm loving it. I don't think this is for everyone. I think this is true Gothic. It is very kind of creeping, unreliable narrator. So you've got that kind of classic setup of this girl. She's kind of the niece of the family, and her family passed away, so her aunt and uncle kind of adopted her. She's also mixed race. So in this time, I think we're talking about Victorian, so I think it's like 1800, like Victorian-esque era. You know, she doesn't have many prospects, and her uncle is just kind of desperate to marry her off. He has gambling debts, and one day he just invites this guy over, and he's like, take her. And she's like, oh. So she's actually quite clever. She kind of sneaks in to see who this guy is, and he spots her, and they have a moment, and she agrees to marry him. Now, can you imagine? You've literally just laid eyes on this guy, but she's like, I've got no other choice. I better marry him, and he's going to take me away to his family home. And man, this family home, oh, it is just the most deliciously Gothic, crazy, weird. So I absolutely get the Crimson Peak comparison because it's there. She gets there and his family is bonkers. The stuff she thinks she sees, she doesn't know what she's seeing. She doesn't know what's going on. It is written so beautifully, so descriptively. It's giving me Rebecca. It's giving me Crimson Peak. It's giving me The Haunting at Hill House, all of those very classic Gothic novels that I love. And that's why I love it. I don't know if it would be for everyone, because you've got to love that. You've got to love that really kind of slow burn in the sense that, am I losing my mind or is something actually going on here? But man, I think it's written beautifully and I am loving my time with this. So this is one I'm definitely going to be finishing. Right, then another book. Calabasas. So catabasis, however you want to say the damn word. Okay, I know there's a lot of discussion on that, but author did say, doesn't matter how you say it, depends where you come from. So catabasis. And the tagline to Hell with Love, it was just, it got me, right? I have not read R of Kong before, and I was like, I'm going to give it a go. Because the other books hadn't really appealed to me that much, whereas this one, and the tagline here is that you've got 2 students. They are at prestigious university in Cambridge. They're studying magic. So it's our world, but you can study magic. Please. That'd be so good. And their professor does a spell. Spell goes horribly wrong. He ends up, and his soul is in hell because he's not a very nice person. Okay, he ain't a nice guy. So he ends up in hell. Now these 2, so Alice and Peter are like, we need to get him back. We need to get his soul back, because the thing is, think Devil Wears Prada, but in academia. This professor, he's one of those that you have to survive. And if you can survive him, you can kind of have your pick of fellowships and pick of jobs and that. So it's very prestigious to have graduated under this professor and studied under this professor. So they're like, wow, this is really going to hamper our prospects. so we've got to go to hell and get him back. And there starts our journey. The two of them end up there. And I loved this book. I know the criticism that's been thrown at it is that it's hard to read, that it's too academic, that you have to have a PhD to read it. I disagree. I don't have a PhD and I had a really great time. Granted, I do love anything set in hell. You know, I have the Divine Comedy over there. I love the mythology and everything around the depictions of hell, the different 7 circles of hell, all of that. I find it really fascinating. It's a topic that I love and I love reading about. So I am very much the audience, but I just found it incredibly interesting. I found it incredibly easy to read. I flew through this despite this being... So I've also hurt my wrist. So holding up these heavy books is giving me... This is 540 pages long. I've got to do it this way. 540 pages long, so it is not a short book, but I absolutely loved my time with it. It is dark academia. There is a romance, which I loved. I loved the romance. There is kind of adventure, travel, all of this mythology around hell, all of these creatures. There's action, the things that they encounter when they're in hell. Man, I love this. I loved it. This is a 5-star read. This may be one of my favorite books of the year so far. I think this is going to be on the list. I absolutely adored this book. And new release, should you read it? Yes, you should. You should absolutely read it, and if that sounds interesting to you. Right. Next new release is The Tarot Readers of Versailles, and this is by Anya Bergman. Now, can we get a load of this stunning cover? This was released a few months ago, I think. It's not brand new, but it's obviously new. And this is the French Revolution with witches. No, it's not actually witches. It's with sort of magic and tarot readers. And what I love about this book, so what the author's done is she's mixed like Celtic mythology. So you've got the Morrigan, which was Morgan Le Fay the Morrigan is a witch in Celtic mythology, with Ireland's. So the premise here is that Ireland wants to be independent from England, with the French Revolution and obviously the people of France wanting to get rid of the monarchy and be independent. And she's kind of mixed those two things in together, like I said, with a kind of a supernatural element, with this tarot reader element. And it's just so good. And I know that sounds complex, but I think she did it in such an incredible way. So the premise, you kind of go back and forth a little bit, but the premise here is you've got this woman, and God, when they describe her kind of where she does her tarot readings, it's like behind a bookstore. It's like the back of a bookstore where she has sort of her tarot readings. And it's so, the whole atmosphere is amazing. But you've got the tarot reader who she's in Paris and she's reading tarot, and she does this for the nobility. She gets sponsored by the nobility. And she's very pro Marie Antoinette. And then you have another main character, Catherine, who is a Irish servant, and she meets this guy, and they keep talking about like revolution and Ireland's independence from the UK, from the English, and wanting to fight for them and wanting to fight for their independence. And she ends up going to Paris to follow this guy because he really riles up her revolutionary zeal. And he the reason he's going over to Paris is to gain support from the French, sort of to help them in their revolution and get rid of the monarchy. In return, they will come to Ireland and help him. So that's kind of the political backdrop. And then you have this kind of very human story of what happened to these nobles, what happened to Marie Antoinette and her son and her children. And I love the French Revolution. I love history. It was one of my favorite subjects at school. And the French Revolution was always one of my favorite time periods to study. And I find I find Marie Antoinette incredibly fascinating. I love the film Marie Antoinette. I love anything to do with her. I feel she was misunderstood and maligned for no good reason. She was this young girl who was plucked from her home and kind of thrown into the opulent court. What did you expect? So and it's interesting because you kind of get both views here. You get the view of she's the devil incarnate, and you get the view of this poor woman, right? it's super fascinating. The whole tarot, the whole predicting, and Catherine, our Irish protagonist, she can see the past, and then one of them can see the future. It's really interesting. And then how these kind of storylines weave together. I don't want to kind of give too much away, but I think this is fascinating. I think if you're, it's an incredibly interesting premise. It's perfect for the season. And I think if you are interested in the French Revolution, Marie Antoinette in any way, you might enjoy this. I don't know if I did a great job in describing it, but it's really very good. So that is like a 4.5 star read for me. It was very, very good. Then I've got like loads of stuff inside of this one. This is The Book of Heartbreak by Ova Green. So this one, oh, what is her name? Sarah. She goes back to, is it Istanbul, yeah. She goes, I think her mother passes in the beginning of this, and there's like a curse. And this curse on her family is that, first of all, they all perish young, but also she is not allowed to get her heart broken more than a certain number of times. If on the, like, I don't know, fifth, I can't remember what the number of times were exactly, but like if on the 5th time she gets her heart broken, she perishes. Okay. And so she can't, like, you can imagine like emotion, caring for anyone, falling in love, you know, getting your heart broken is kind of part of that process. So she has to try and avoid it. But when her mom dies, she gets shipped off to Istanbul to live with her grandfather. And she starts sort of uncovering her family history. And there's an element of angels and demons in this, which is kind of the supernatural element. And then she's trying to break her curse. While I kind of enjoyed it, I didn't really connect with the characters too much, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to enjoy it. I thought of it a little bit as Daughter of Smoke and Bone, again with that sort of angel demon, good versus bad. There's also this kind of interesting premise the author uses in that the angels are talking to each other via email. So it's our modern world, right? And it's like angel whatever at something Gmail. And I was actually listening to this on audiobook, and I don't know if I like multimedia and modern elements in books. It doesn't bother me, but just something about it. I don't know. I think I think other people would really enjoy it. It's not one that I wouldn't recommend, so I would say it's a 3-star read. It just wasn't necessarily for me, or I just didn't really connect with the story. And as I'm talking, I'm kind of struggling to remember the details. So yeah. It was a little bit of a letdown. I thought I was going to absolutely love it, but I didn't. Then one that I did absolutely love, Hemlock and Silver, T. Kingfisher. So good. So good. So this is like a spin on the Snow White story with T. Kingfisher's kind of signature horror and humor and quirkiness added to it. So you have the setup here as our main character. She is a master at poisons and curing people that are poisoned. So her cousin was poisoned when she was a child, and she wanted to figure out, you know, she almost wished she could have cured him. So she goes about trying all these different things, understanding poisons, and now she's like in her 30s, I think. She lives quite a solitary life. She's very happy in her own company. She is also not 5'4", rake, waif, about to die, tiny little thing. No, she's a substantial woman who eats her damn food, who is strong, who is independent. And I freaking love this woman. Anyway, so thank you, T. Kingfisher, for writing a decent female protagonist. And anyway, so she's happily doing her thing, milking her viper that she carries around with her, you know, for antidote. And then the king comes knocking on her door one day and is like, hey, I hear you are the premier poison curer. My daughter, Snow, she's been ill for a long time. Nobody can tell him what is wrong with her. They think she may be poisoned, and female main character, she's the expert, so he's like, come to the palace with me to figure out what is wrong with my daughter. And she's just like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't. He's really, but it's the king. So what you gonna do? She goes. And there she starts to figure out what is wrong with Snow, and it may not just be a poison, it may be something a little bit more fantastical. And it is brilliant. What I also love about this main character is this is like a dark fairy tale esque story, but our main character, because she's so scientific and she wants to work everything out, like I won't tell you but there's like fairy tale things, like there's a talking cat. Okay, there's a great talking cat, and I think it's in the blurb. And at one point she's like, oh my god, the cat's talking, why? And then she's trying to figure all of this out, and then her bodyguard, there's also an itty bitty romance, and her bodyguard is like, dude, it's a talking cat. Like, just go with it. But I love the fact that she's actually questioning it. It's so good. This is another 5-star read. Hugely recommend it. T. Kingfisher is always amazing, but again, perfect for the season as well. Absolutely perfect seasonal read. Then I did go on a bit of a Dark Academia marathon. You'll see a few more in there. Actually, I might pluck them all while I'm talking about this one. This is also a new release. This is When We Were Monsters, and this is by Jennifer Niven. So I kid you not, a cover buy, because like amazing, and I saw Dark Academia and I was like, well, I'm in. Wowzers. Okay, this is If We Were Villains, The Secret History, and The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz got together in a throuple and birthed a little book baby. So if you liked any of those, if you think that combination sounds good, read this. This is so good. So this is a bunch of students who are doing the January term. What I would also say is that this is set in like the first 3 weeks of January. So it might be quite cool to actually read it. Like, I'm going to reread this with like every day that this book, because it literally goes by the days. So you could like read it in those first few weeks of January. I think it would be really fun to do. But they have this January term at this prestigious school. So this is like their last term, and I think they're going to graduate and go off. So I think they're like 18 in this, go off to university, and it's all to do with writing. And I think it's 6 of them get into this course, and it's run by a very famous author. She's an actor, she's an author, she's done screenplays, but she's also very, very controversial. She wrote a book when she was young. She went to the same school, and her best friend was unalived, and she helped put the person away that was responsible. And then it turned out that this person was innocent. So she was cancelled, essentially. But then she did like a comeback, and she wrote this book called The Lie, where she kind of confesses and talks about that. And since then, she's become really, really famous. So they are very excited when they hear that she's going to be hosting this writing course. But like from the get-go, and this is very atmospheric and cold, and it's snowing, and it's brilliant for winter. Perfect. She weird. Okay, she's odd. She's making them do really strange things. Not everything is as it seems. She's jumping off of cliffs. She's standing in the middle of the road. She's making them do this stuff. She's chucking them out in the cold. She's also getting rid of them one by one. So that's where, if you've read The Writing Retreat, I love The Writing Retreat. This is better. This is even better, in my opinion. Oh man, this is so, so, so good. And you find out more about these students, about the secrets they're hiding and all of that. The relation, everything. Everything. I loved this book so much. This is another 5-star read for me. It's the perfect Dark Academia book. It's all of the kind of archetypes of Dark Academia. Then another new release is this one. This is A Cinnamon Falls Mystery, and this is by R.L. Kilmore. Now, could anything be more autumn? While I'm surrounded by, admittedly, faux maple leaves, I mean, look at that cover. Look at it. Also, it's called The Cinnamon Falls Mystery. A Cinnamon Falls Mystery. This is set in the town of Cinnamon Falls, and it is set in October. It is perfect. It's set now. Read it now. Read it in October. And they're getting ready for their Fall Fest, I think it's called. Fall Fest, which is kind of does what it says on the tin. It's a fall festival, but the description of like the baking and the cinnamon and all of this in this little town and the pumpkins, and they're getting ready for this, is beautiful. So that's kind of your backdrop. So it is this kind of cozy mystery, but also romantic suspense at the same time. And I've realized that, confession time, I'm not the biggest fan of cozies. Sorry. I like some of them, but it's not my, I like it dark and gritty and gothic, okay? It's not my preferred genre. However, throw in a couple of dead bodies, okay? Throw in some thrilling mystery and a bit of romance, and I love it. I love it. So romantic suspense, I've clearly realized, is a genre that I love. And like with a cozy setting like this for the time of year, it's perfect. So the Nia, our main character here, she has just come back to town because she had a terrible breakup because she found out the guy she was dating, he actually had a wife. And she came knocking on her door and went, hello, you're sleeping with my husband. And she's like, what? Oh, did not know that. Did not. He kept his whole other life from her. So she packs up and leaves, right? She comes back home. And her family run the ice cream parlor. Oh, they do cinnamon swirl ice cream. I love cinnamon. I love cinnamon anything. So, oh my God, you need cinnamon swirl ice cream when you're reading this. Anyway, and like I said, they're getting ready for Fall Fest. And the woman that owns the diner, Rose. So the backstory, the reason Nia left in the first place was her best friend unalived herself when they were, like, I think in their final year of high school, and then she went off to college elsewhere, and she kind of wanted to leave it all behind her. But she does feel a little bit jealous, a little bit guilty for kind of just picking up and leaving Rose, who was her best friend's mother, kind of to pick up the pieces on her own. So she sees Rose, like, her first day back, and she's like, oh, we should catch up. And then the next day, Rose is found dead in the diner. And Nia is devastated, but she also wants to figure out what happened to Rose for closure, for the memory of her best friend. Enter Jesse, who is a rookie sheriff in town. He was in the army previously. He was also Nia's high school love, and Nia broke his heart when she left. So they have unfinished emotional business, but also, you know, they kind of team up a little bit to figure out what is happening, because that is not the only body that is going to drop in Cinnamon Falls. This was fantastic. For what it is in its genre, I would say like 4.5 stars easily. Love this. I think this is her first book. I don't know if it's like an actual debut or just her first book in this world. But when I looked in the front, it said, I think there were more coming. So was it in here or was it on the website? Somewhere along the line, it said there was going to be more books by her. A Death at Daffodil Inn is going to be the next one. Welcome Back to Cinnamon Falls. So a budding new romance and another dead body. So I think I'm definitely going to pick that up. That's spring 2026. A perfect daffodil spring. So yes, I feel like this is going to be my version of the cinnamon bun. You know, that one that everybody reads with the seasons. I think it's going to be this. Because, you know, throwing a dead body and I'm in, right? And then another new release. So wait, I didn't do my, should you read this? Yes, if any of that sounds good, if you like a cozy, absolutely read it. Right, another one. This is Dream by the Shadows by Logan Carley. Now, this one was also billed as a nightmare, gothic, fantasy-infused, shadow-haunted romance. So, this one I thought I was going to be in love with. I was going to just lose my mind over her. So this is all about when you fall asleep. In this world, they take a tonic so that they don't dream. Because if you dream, the nightmares kind of come to you and the demons infiltrate you and kind of possess you via your nightmares, and you become possessed, and then you have to be, and then, that's bad. Right. So you also have this kind of really quite, there's a number of gods, and like the Lightbringer is fighting against the nightmare god in this. And our main protagonist, her family, are the ones that are kind of tasked by the Lightbringer and by the gods and the monarchy, essentially the army, to hand out the elixir to all of the afflicted, to everybody in the village, so that they don't get afflicted by the nightmares and by the demons. But she feels really guilty because when her and her sister were younger, I think they didn't take it for fun because they wanted to dream, and then her sister was infected by a demon and she had to be executed, so she feels really guilty about that. And then there seems to be a lot of people now getting infected again in their village, and then the Lightbringer comes in and they realize, I won't say why, but what is happening. But in the meantime, she has also been dreaming, and she's been in the kind of shadow realm, and she meets the kind of the shadow or the nightmare god in there. And this has been built a little bit of the Beauty and the Beast story, because he is obviously seen as this kind of horrible nightmare person, but is he really? And is he really as terrible as people say? Now, the reason I sound a little confused when I'm saying that is because I got a good way into this. So I got 193 pages of, like, I think it's only over 320, right? So I got a fair way into this book. My issue here is that I have DNF'd it for now, because it's very, it's weird because it's quite fast paced, and which is not necessarily something I dislike, but I was confused a lot. There's a lot of world building, there's a lot of character building, there's a lot of building going on very, very quickly. And I was kind of like, I'm a tiny bit confused and I'm not really invested in this romance, and I really should be. Like the imagery of when she goes into the shadow realm and the dreaming is beautiful and it's this nightmare castle and the demons. And on a level, it speaks to everything that I love, but I just couldn't connect. And I wonder if that has to do with the speed and the pace of it. I feel like we maybe needed to sit a little bit back first and establish some of these things before because you dive straight in, which, like I said, is good in some ways, but in other ways, I just lacked any kind of connection or empathy with the characters. So I've kind of DNF'd it for now. I don't know if I will go back to it. I might just go back to it and try it again, because like I said, in theory, I should love it. But for now, it's not one that I can necessarily recommend because I did DNF it. But if it sounds good to you, if you think maybe you would really like it, give it a go and see what you think. But I just can't recommend it because of that. Then, if you remember, I talked about my Rachel Harris-a-thon. So I did very well in that. So I only have 2 more books left to go. I can't find my copy of Cackle. It's somewhere. So I read Cackle, I read Such Sharp Teeth, and I read Black Sheep. Now you can see I've even tabbed something in Black Sheep over there. That's me tabbing something. I only really tab something if I need to get back into the habit of but I really wanted to remember that passage in there. I have her new book, Play Nice, which is going to be on my TBR for October. And what's the other one? Oh, The Return. I've actually read The Return, or The Returned, but I want to reread it. So I'm bang up to date with Miss Rachel Harrison. And, okay, it is absolutely 100% confirmed. Rachel Harrison is an auto-buy author, one of my favorites. Satan tier authors. She's going to go into my video of these are my favorite authors. I'm going to be doing all of those things sort of December. I freaking love everything Rachel Harrison writes. She is phenomenal. I think she is the perfect female horror author where you have these kind of light horror elements, but there's always something to say in her book. She always has something to say. She always tackles issues that I think are very deeply rooted in the female experience, things that not everybody kind of talks about. A lot of horror authors are male, and I love the kind of perspective that she brings to it. And every single book that I've read of hers has been a hit. I love it. I take away something from each one. Cackle is perfect for October. I'm not going to go in depth into these books because they're going to be in my Rachel Harrison video, so I don't want to be repetitive. But let's just say that I've loved every single. I hugely recommend Rachel Harrison. This is about werewolves. I would say this is the most overtly horrific with the most horror elements. This one is about a cult. Man, this dysfunction, but it's more about a dysfunctional family than anything else, and kind of the familial relationships. But this one had me laughing out loud in some places. But honestly, I think she is just one of the best voices of her generation in this genre and in this kind of female-led horror. It's sublime. Like I said, I'll go way more in depth into Rachel Harrison, but love it. But I did do that on my TBR. Then let's grab another couple of books. So another one I've got here is The Wolf King. This is by Lauren Palfreman. I always struggle to say that name. I actually read this and the second book, The Night Prince. There's the only 2 that are out at the moment. I think the third one is coming out next year. This has been hugely hyped. This is Shifters Werewolves. And I've seen a lot of people that have absolutely loved it. I have to say, I went in expecting to be like, this is going to be a 5-star read. And overall, the duology for me, I would put it at like a 3, maybe 3.5 star. So kind of setup here is that you've got this princess who's being married off to this very cruel lord. Her father's kind of, as they always do, marrying her off for political reasons. She doesn't want to marry this guy, and kind of like as a wedding gift to her, they're not married yet, but before the wedding, he puts on these like fights, and they're between werewolves. And one of these fights that she's about to witness is a werewolf alpha and like a very young werewolf, and she kind of goes in and stops it, and she's just like, no, this is barbaric. And then she kind of goes underground to speak to this young werewolf, and the alpha sort of notices her, and he then breaks out and takes her as a hostage because he figures, hey, the princess as a hostage. But the thing is, she didn't really want to be there in the first place, so she's not that averse to going away with the werewolf, and he's going to take her back to his lands. And our story kind of goes from there, and she obviously falls for him, but then this becomes a love triangle. And controversially, I'm a Blake girl. If you've read it, you know. Okay. I think there's a clear winner in this triangle, and I don't think it's the one that everybody else thinks is the clear winner. In fact, Blake is my favorite character. He's one of the other wolves. My main issue with this is I find the main character, the female main character, insufferable. She irritates the shit out of me, and I'm sorry, that might probably be another unpopular opinion, but she is so weak. She is so... I mean, she only really womans up sort of at the end of the second book a bit, but man, someone's always rescuing her. She's so... And I get it. That's how she was raised, and that's what she's meant to be, and that's how princesses are meant to be. But wow, I like my female main characters very stabby. Okay, I like them morally black. I like them stabby. I like them kicking butt. You know, I like Alex Stern. Jay Kristoff's Never Night. You know, I really like him tough. I like tough female main characters, and she is the way opposite of that. And I just think her going back and forth all the time and that, like I said, I think there's a clear winner. And she really needs to stand up for herself. She really needs to grow a backbone in that third book because, wow, I find her irritating. So I'd say this is a 3.5 star read. Again, but take that with a pinch of salt. See if you like it. A lot of people really love this and consider this like a 5-6 star read for them. So that may just be me. Then the next, let's go here. So let's not do that. Let's go here. So, ow. Like I told you, I've hurt my wrist. So, like I said, I did a Dark Academia-a-thon. And I also read The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. And then I attempted to read, this is actually called The Four by Ali Keel. This was an arc, so hence that's why it's not on the front, so it's The Four. Let's start with this because I said I attempted to read it. I did my obligatory 95 pages, almost 100, and I tapped out. So this book is about a kind of a prestigious high school, and these are school kids, not university. And it's a bit like, they're being, so the new kids that come into this class, you have prefects that are like the upperclassmen, and my God, do they bully these children? They bully them to the point of they actually literally physically and mentally torture them. And they're allowed to get away with it by the staff. And normally, again, I like morally grey characters. I love Dark Academia, and there's always that element of it. But man, I had to tap out of this. I was just like, this is just the relentlessly mean, evil children. And they're horrible, and they need a smack. And I cannot believe that the faculty, particularly because this is school and not university, how the faculty lets them get away with this, I do not know. And this is irritating the bejeebies out of me. And I just couldn't get on board with it. I just thought this was mean for mean's sake. Just let's be mean to the new kids or the scholarship kids. And it just kind of made me angry, and I really wasn't enjoying it. So I don't recommend that. But hey, if you want to give it a go, give it a go. Then we've got The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I read his other two books, so The Fury and The Silent Patient. I enjoyed both of those. Controversially, I actually think I enjoyed The Fury or The Furies more than The Silent Patient, because while I did like the twist, maybe I've read too many books where there've been twists like that, and I was like, oh, okay. Although, fun fact, there is a cameo from that character, Theo, the psychologist if you've read The Silent Patient, in here, which is quite funny. So this one is Alex Michaelides' Dark Academia. So I will say, I thought there was going to be more. So wait, let me take a step back. The premise here is The Maidens refers to this group of female students who are studying Greek, a very sort of secret history, with this professor. And I loved that. They call themselves The Maidens, and I kind of loved that. I was like, oh, I want to read all about that. That's going to be really interesting. We never really delve into that. It's there, and it's a thing, and it's in the background, but the main part of the story is that female protagonist, she gets a phone call from her niece, who is also like her ward, because her sister and her brother-in-law passed away in a car accident. So her and her husband have been looking after her niece. Her husband's also just died, so he died like 10 months previously. So this book really, really heavily focuses on grief and loss. So just also, again, know that going in. So you get a lot of that in the beginning. And then she gets a phone call from her niece saying, really distraught, saying that her friend has been killed on the campus. So she goes off to this campus, is it Oxford, I think? Cambridge, Oxford, to go and see her. And when she gets there, and again, I'm a little like, really? First of all, she just decides to investigate. I don't really know what gives her the credentials. She's a psychologist. She does these group therapy sessions. You also have this guy that goes to her group therapy sessions that is obsessed with her, that seems to follow her there. And then on her first night in, I think it's Oxford, this guy, actually no, on the train, this guy starts to try and make friends with her. And then he kind of follows her around. And then one night he just kind of kisses her, and she sort of lets him, and then he helps her out. And I feel like, so this is something, and I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I feel like choices were made for the main female character in this, things that she did that made no goddamn sense. I'm like, no woman would react like that. No woman that just lost her husband 10 months ago would react like that. I think what I'm trying to get at is, I think the main female character was badly written. And I was like, I don't know if I don't think she'd make choices like that. So in general, it was a fun mystery. It was interesting. I did kind of guess what was happening. There was a bit of a twist in the end. And unfortunately, it didn't focus on the things that I thought it was going to focus on. And this is like 2.5, 3 stars, if I'm generous. I really didn't like that book, did I? The more I talk about it, the more I realize I didn't like it. And then the last two, these two. This is Bewitched by Laura Thalassa. So this is another one of my witch books that I've been reading. This was so much fun. Okay, this is this is like Hogwarts, right? But slightly older, for like more adult witches. Like this coven, the Henbane Coven. And our main character, she's trying to get into this coven, and when she goes and does another audition to get into the coven, they like, we want you to go on a better magical quest, and we want you to get a familiar. And she's like, sure. So she drunkenly books herself a flight to South America, and the plane crashes on the way there. She ends up in the jungles in South America, and 2 things happen. 1, she bonds with a panther. Hello, familiar. That is the coolest familiar ever. I do have questions on how she got a panther on a plane and back to the United States, but it is a bonding with a panther. And she stumbles across a tomb, and there's this gorgeous man entombed, and unfortunately she wakes him, and she finds out he's very, 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 very powerful, and may or may not have known her in a past life. So she goes back to the United States with her panther, and she gets into the coven. They're very impressed by her quest and her panther familiar. And then people on the campus, women on the campus, witches, they start dying, and they're trying to figure out what's going. And, this powerful entity that she awoke in the South American jungle may have followed her back. I love this. This is like romantasy, epic through the ages romantasy. This whole setup with this witchy world and this coven, I loved it. Like I said, Hogwarts for adults. I had so much fun. I giggled. I had the best time reading this book. This is a 4.5 star read for me. I absolutely loved it, and I will definitely be reading book 2. And then the final book, I'm just going to talk about this really quickly, is When Stars Come Out by Scarlett Sinclair. This is another dark academia. This is set at a high school again. This is YA. And I would say this is kind of dark, really beautiful in the vein of Scarlett Sinclair's writing. This is it gives me, it's Shadow and Bone. So, no, not Shadow and Bone, Shadowhunters. Wrong series. Scrap, rewind. Shadowhunters. This is, if you like the Shadowhunters, read this book. The only thing I will say is I cannot find a book 2, which is really annoying. This was written a number of years ago and I still cannot find it. But I love this. I'm seeing this as a standalone. And all I'm going to say is, if you love the Shadowhunters, read this. You'll love it. And that's that on that. Thank you so much. If you're still here, leave me a witch emoji, and I will speak to you all again very soon. Happy spook season. Bye.